Aquarius workshop, knowing who you really are. I start with a quote from Pathwork Lecture 220 with the title The Cosmic Feeling. And the quote is as follows. There is the divine kernel in every one of you. The aim of living is to realize this, to know who you really are, not to forget any longer. Once you know of your true identity, your real self, which is a direct divine heritage, there is no longer any fear or any suffering. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 220. According to the guide, the current stage of human evolution is in a disharmonious in-between state. This in-between state is the era of duality, which is between the lower but harmonious state of consciousness of animals and the higher harmonious state of consciousness of the Aquarius man. Human consciousness at this stage is characterized by half asleep and self-alienation, and it has not yet evolved into the awake state of the Aquarius man. Humanity struggles in his search for self-realization, for a positive attitude to life, for loving unconditionally, and for a harmonious balance between the active and the passive forces. When we are alienated from the true self and do not know who we really are, then the ego consciousness identifies with the separate aspects of consciousness that hate themselves. We resist acknowledging this self-hatred and feeling the pain of it because we actually believe that this self-hatred is justified and we don't deserve love. The truth is that we fulfill an important role in evolution by educating and purifying these separate aspects of consciousness so that they merge with the true self. Knowing that the true self has taken on this immense task before this incarnation will give us self-respect and help us to awake. In this workshop you will explore with a loving curiosity, based on 3 themes from the Pathwork Lectures, our true identity. I start with the first theme, identifying yourself with your conscious self. Until we realize what is going on, we blindly allow ourselves to be controlled by our false identification, and we become lost in the destructive battle of the various immature aspects of consciousness. In this state of being, the true self cannot yet manifest. We can, however, identify with the conscious self, the I, which can create order and face this conflict so that consciousness can expand. When the conscious self recognizes the immature aspects, we stop identifying with them. The next quote stems from Pathwork Lecture 189. The moment you identify the destructive aspects, name them, state them, articulate them, observe them, it is that which identifies, names, states, articulates, and observes. That is the self with which you can truly and safely and realistically identify. This self holds many options, possibilities, and choices. The first being what you are doing now, stating, observing, naming, etc. Therefore, you no longer need to persecute yourself so mercilessly with your self-hate. There seems to be no way out but hating yourself as long as you have missed out on this all-important process of identifying with that in you that is capable of observing, stating, naming, choosing, determining, adopting new attitudes, facing, dealing with, recognizing and adjusting without devastating self-judgment. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 189. The second theme, facing your lower self. It is our job to manifest our divine potential by being loving and merciful to ourselves and facing the lower self honestly. Observing our daily thought patterns helps us notice the fear, self-loathing, distrust and hopelessness of the lower self. When we understand that all we are now, however imperfect in some respects, is existing eternal life, then we know that we never cease to exist. This confidence gives us the courage and the strength for self-confrontation, self-respect, healthy self-love and self-forgiveness, so that the connection with the inner reality is restored. The next quote stems from Pathwork Lecture 226. Do not believe that the thoughts you think now are not creations with their own cell structure and their own matter, although the density of that matter is invisible to you. If you live in a split of duality in which you have to hate yourself in order to face the truth of the lower self, or in which you have to deny the truth of the lower self in order not to feel and experience the self-hate and fear of dying, of death, of non-life, then you live in a certain very specific channel and create thoughts and invisible forms that bring you into an ever-repeating pattern of confusion and suffering. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 226. The third and last theme, loving yourself. If we love ourselves, then we love others, and conversely, if we hate ourselves, then we hate others. In tormenting self-loathing, we choose the false solution of loving ourselves by being self-indulgent, blaming others, and condoning lower self-qualities, further alienating from ourselves. Sincere and healthy self-love manifests itself in firstly, being hard on ourselves in self-discipline and strict honesty, and secondly, being gentle on ourselves in compassion and loving self-acceptance, which makes us receptive to and identify with our divinity. The last quote stems from Pathwork Lecture 240. Where and how do you hate yourself? Where and how do you project the self-hate onto others and thereby increase the self-hate? Where do you prevent your freedom by childish denial of boundaries and structure, of laws and rules in small and large areas? And where do you feel within yourself that you are unworthy? Where and how do you love your soul, your mentality, your body? Go deeply into the meditation in which you let yourself know that you are divine, that you need to fully face yourself in all aspects and only increase the sense of divinity. Let your consciousness align itself with the divine will of loving yourself without indulging yourself, without whitewashing your lower self, seeing it straight and loving your beautiful structure, loving your incarnation, loving all that is around you, even that which seems to infringe in some ways on you. Recognize its lesson and begin to love it. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 240. I wish you peace and all the best. Thank you.